I don't know who this guy is. Okay, I don't want to insult anybody's come on, okay, but pro-Palestinian people just seem to not know that much. But I got an email. I got a really good email from a pro-Palestinian guy, okay? A great email. This should have been a subreddit post. His email was the most dishonest paragraph on Wikipedia. And he says, you often cite this paragraph in the Oslo Accords wiki. This is the most dishonest ever. The continued settlement expansion. While Perez had limited settlement construction at the request of the U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, Netanyahu continued construction within existing Israeli settlements and put forward plans for the construction of a new neighborhood, Har Homa in East Jerusalem. However, he fell far short of the Shamir government's 91 to 92 level and refrained from building new settlements, although the Oslo Agreement stipulated no such ban, construction of housing units. So before Oslo, we have 14,000 from 91 to 92, and then after Oslo, here is the construction. It's actually a little bit annoying because one of the things that I've given in the past as a piece of advice is whenever people pick like particular time frames or give you very specific stats, you should always be a little bit skeptical of that. So for instance, if somebody says like, oh, women are more depressed now than ever. And you're like, well, how do you know that? Well, because women ages 24 to 32 and a half that are Hispanic actually report 2 times increased rate. And it's like, why the is that so specific? Makes me think you're lying, right? Just like as a general thing, right? Now, I guess I was just looking at this because, oh, maybe it's before Oslo, and then this is after Oslo, so the years right before. But in my mind, I should have been thinking like, I probably should have a larger time span for this. That would have been like a protective measure in my brain. Would have been good to know. But anyway, this guy sent me a picture of, let's see if I can find this. Construction starts in settlements by year, Israeli Central Bureau of Statistics. Destiny, while you were researching this, you said exactly, why are these years so specific? Oh, interesting. Oh, then I might have, maybe I did say that, but I didn't do further digging to it. Or I might have asked the stream team, we just couldn't find it. But anyway, he sent me this graph for this, right? Now, this is interesting because it does recontextualize those 91 to 92 numbers a lot. These are insanely high numbers for 91, 92, right? And to point to just these numbers and to say, well, once the Oslo Accords went into play, the overall construction seemed to decline quite a bit. Well, true compared to 91, 92, but historically, I don't know if that is that true, right? So it's good to have this full graph. So the next paragraph he says is, the wiki implies the massive, unusual spike in 91 to 92 is the historic normal. So you're definitely wondering what happened in 91, 92. This can be traced to Israel's largest, by far, wave of immigrants since its inception. And then he links the Jewish Virtual Library from 91 to 92 is when you get, I guess, these years, huge immigration. This happened because the Soviet Union, in its final years, lifted its ban on Jewish migration to Israel. Comparing 91 to 92 to 96 to 97 is insanely dishonest, and Bibi was PM from 96 to 99 as well. Also, the claim in the paragraph that Paris was pressured by Albright is just not true. The citation is completely irrelevant. I can't speak to that, but I don't know. But there were no new settlements post-Oslo, right? Solely relying on the number of new settlements is a fundamentally flawed way of assessing whether settlement expansion is taking place. And then he lists 5 points. 1, Israel gets to arbitrarily define the difference between settlements and new neighborhoods. Here are some of the worst examples that I could find. And then he lists 5... Following the government decision in April of 2012 to retroactively legalize 3 outposts, Rehelem, Sansana, and Brushin, and to declare them as new settlements, the commander of the Central Command issued a few days ago a military order officially establishing the boundaries of Rehelem. So here, this is, I guess, like, basically they're expanding this thing here. And then he says, so here are some of the worst examples that I could find. Blah, blah, blah. Must trace back to illegal outposts built in the Oslo/Camp David era being retroactively legalized as new neighborhoods of existing settlements, despite sometimes being kilometers away. So that's a really good example of tricky words being dishonest that are, right? And this guy's email is so good. It's really good because it plugs into and it directly counters something that I have said. So what I've said was the expansion of settlements was different after the Oslo Accords because all they did was like build new houses out to expand like neighborhoods for existing settlements, which is true. But this guy's counter to that, which is a really good counter, is you're right, but what you don't realize is they didn't just expand new neighborhoods. Sometimes those new neighborhoods are actually miles away from the original settlement, which is a tricky and dishonest way of saying you're only expanding a settlement when in reality you're kind of sort of starting a new one or building another one miles away, right? Which is a really, really good point, an interesting point. Number two, if you want to measure settlement expansion by number of settlements, then you must believe that settlement expansion is not currently taking place and basically has not for the last 30 years. Only one new official settlement in the last 20 years. Actually, you also have to believe settlement expansion started to decline before Oslo, which doesn't make sense. Number three, the number of outposts tacitly endorsed by the government must also be considered. Israel secretly funded illegal, according to Israel, outposts and provided utilities and constructed roads for them, tore down some of the smaller outposts, then started a process of legalizing most of them in the 2010s, and then he's provides more. There's tons of links that he gives in here too. Outpost construction started under Bibi in the 90s, so no, he did not just continue Rabin's settlement freeze like you've claimed before. In fact, he immediately lifted it, and then he gives another link here. A good variety of sources too. Israel will allow settlers to build. This is from 96, so we're 3 years into Oslo here, right? The Likud government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took one of its first specific steps today towards reversing the dovish policies of its predecessors, lifting a 4-year-old ban on the expansion of settlements in the West Bank and Gaza. The cabinet decision left Jewish settlers gloating that the pendulum of Israeli politics had swung their way, while both Israeli and Palestinian opponents of the move warned that settlement expansion would unravel the peace agreements. In abolishing the ban on new construction, Mr. Netanyahu's government also did away with the ministerial committee that had reviewed building requests, leaving approval of new construction up to the defense minister alone. Yeah, so assuming he's not misquoting any of this. Note 2, Rabin's settlement freeze obviously excluded East Jerusalem, but it also excluded the Jordan Valley and Golan Heights, surprisingly, so it's less extensive or expensive than it appears. I think he meant to say extensive. Number 4, new official settlements are a bad look internationally, so there is strong incentive to keep them low. The Bush 41 admin based was putting real pressure on Israel in the early 90s to stop settlement expansion, but this pressure stopped later with the Clinton admin cringe, which only expressed disapproval. Baker bars Israeli loan aid unless settlements are halted. Secretary of State James A. Baker gave Israel a blunt public warning yesterday that unless it stops building Jewish settlements in occupied territories, it will not get $10 billion in U.S. loan guarantees to help resolve hundreds of thousands of immigrants from the former Soviet Union. So Obama pressured the settlements, but I think he only did it with like mean words. This is actually a really good form, a really positive form, congrats to Bush on actual pressure here. Like, oh, you want loan guarantees from the United States? Okay, that's cool. This needs to stop or you're not getting this. This is a good form of like pressure, I would say. Stronger than what I'm aware of existed under Obama, because I think Obama was only harsh consternation. That's a good word. Am I using that correctly? Consternation. Feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected. Nope, never mind. That was not a good word. It was a stern warning is what Obama did, not consternation. Dumb. Fuck me. Oh yeah, this would have been Bush Senior. Sorry, because this is Cold War, post-Soviet collapse. Sorry, this would have been Bush Senior, I think. Yeah. How much does this change in your analysis of the Oslo Accords? The overall impression has not changed that much, but it does shade it a bit differently. Yeah. And it does put more culpability on the side of the Israelis here for being more antagonistic post-Oslo Accords. And I'll no longer say that, well, look, even Netanyahu, because some talking points I had before was Netanyahu, technically, even when he was PM, he chilled post-Oslo Accords and settlement expansion, and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think that's true anymore. I don't think that's true. Based on what I've been provided here, it doesn't seem to be the case. And settlers were still pretty aggressively expanding, even in the Oslo Accord era. Yeah, somebody in chat said that it's so retarded that those are actually good pushbacks to things Destiny said in the past, yet no one has ever brought them up since none of these Muppets really... Yeah, the thing that's frustrating is that there are... there are some good pushbacks to some things that I've said, but people just don't know them that much, which is really annoying. And it's not even that like the pushback makes me automatically wrong. It's just that there's an interesting conversation to be had there. Like for instance, one really pro-Zionist talking point over and over again. Here's two that are brought up around Gaza that people don't actually have good. They just aren't aware of it, right? One argument, and I might have even used these in debates just to see if the other person would push back, but I don't want to argue both sides. So one argument given is, well, in 2005, Israel pulled out the settlements from the Gaza Strip, and, they didn't get any peace from it, right? That desire, I believe Sharon himself has said, that desire to pull out settlements from the Gaza Strip, that was not a good faith showing from Israel to show that they can remove the settlements. That was we are trying to shore up our demographic majority in Israel proper, and we just don't want to with the Gaza shit anymore. We're gonna pull our people out. To their chagrin, they were like Israeli settlers outside their homes in the Gaza Strip, like trying to fight with soldiers, saying, "Don't take my shit down." Yeah, and they're like, "No, we're taking all the settlements down in the Gaza Strip." That was a unilateral move, though. That was not a negotiated bilateral. We'll pull out our settlements. You give us this. We do that. Blah blah blah. That was just Israel saying, we're pulling out of our settlements. We want to shore up our demographic majorities in these areas where it's more important. And then I'm guessing, I don't have a source for this, my guess would be to move settlers instead to places like the Golan Heights, which they've since annexed, or places like the West Bank. That would be a good counter argument to me or to anybody else bringing up, well, we pulled out the, not we, but well, Israel pulled out the settlements in 2005 in Gaza and they got, only fighting. Nobody seems to be aware of that. Nobody knows that. I don't know why. That's even listed in the wiki where Sharon has made those comments. A second argument that's brought up very commonly, I think I've used this one a few times, that nobody seems to know, is people talk about how, I think Wiki even brought this up, I didn't say anything. People talk about how in the Gaza Strip, they bring up in the Gaza Strip that Hamas basically couped and killed Fatah after they won their elections and everything. This is true. However, part of the rationale for this, and we did go over this on stream, was there were plans from the United States and Israel to arm Fatah to coup Hamas. And that's part of the reason why Hamas was like, we're killing all you motherfuckers. We won our elections, get the fuck out of here. That's why they were throwing them off of buildings and killing them. But nobody seems to be aware of any of it. So, and there's like
I'm sorry.
What?
I don't want to debate you today, but I want to ask, do you listen when we talk? Like when we debate these things?
Lycan. Oh no, don't do this.
No, I'm going to ask because during the again, like you said, it doesn't mean you're wrong, but during the conversation with Lonerbox, I brought up that first point, and during a later conversation, I brought up that second point, and you never remember it. I've heard
you
do
might
this
have
so
not,
many
but it's
times.
because, but these are all points. I don't know where you got them from, but I discovered these on my own before hearing anybody else say them. Somebody linked me the documents relating. I'm 1,000,000% positive. You want to show me sources or whatever, or a clip of you talking about it beforehand, you can. But I was shocked when I found out that Hamas Fatah thing, and it was because people linked me declassified documents in the United States planning on an overthrow of Hamas via arming Fatah. I've never heard.
Yeah, because someone pushed back on me when I brought it up and was like, we went over it. I went over it later on the stream with Justalk. It was like one after a day or two after we had discussed it, and he brought it up, and so I went further into it with him. But I did bring it up to you regarding the Fatah.
Okay, you can show me when, but I don't remember this. But also
I can't believe you don't even believe me when I'm just coming in to tell you. It shows the distrust you have for me.
I have distrust for anything if I don't see documents, but I distrust everybody. I even distrust Pisco,
No,
right? We
I'm
fought
just
for
saying that I
5
brought
days.
it up. All I'm saying is that I brought it up.
It is possible you brought it up, and because you didn't have a source for it, I just ignored it. That's possible too, sure. But like, yeah, I only go by what I can source. But I mean, I treat Pisco the exact same way. We argued for 3 days over the January 6th shit, and it wasn't until I saw the actual J6 committee, it's like, okay, now I believe this. I always need sources for everything because everybody says.
I'm not even talking about the believing it. I'm just talking about you believing that I said it. That's it.
Okay. I mean,
so maybe it wasn't until you
saw, but I just don't remember.
Just when you brought it up, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I think Lycan mentions this at one point when you saw the document yourself. Like none of that clicked for you.
No, because if I don't see a document, like a lot of people say a lot of random things about everything. But unless I see documents, then I'm like, oh okay,